a solar water heater that one person puts together in about 20 minutes, with no tools, from a box light enough to carry on a bike. That is what a Scottish engineer has built, taking a technology that normally arrives as heavy glass panels and a four-figure installation bill. The company behind it is SolarisKit, a firm founded in 2019, and its product is a clear prism that ships flat and heats water using nothing but the sun. Cold water runs through a coil inside it, warms as it passes through the trapped heat, and comes out hot enough for bathing and washing. If it works the way they claim, it opens up clean hot water to the millions of homes that could never afford a conventional system. The idea started with families in Kigali spending almost half their income on energy, and the path from there to your rooftop is what we are going to follow. Heating water quietly eats a bigger share of home energy than most people realize. In a typical household, hot water alone can account for up to 30% of the total energy bill. In the United Kingdom, running a standard electric immersion heater costs somewhere between £500 and £800 a year. That cost lands hardest where people can least carry it. In Kigali, Rwanda, households often spend up to 40% of their income on energy, and around 70% of that goes on heating water alone. With the grid patchy or unaffordable, millions turn to charcoal instead, and the city burns through tens of thousands of sacks of it every week just to warm water. The result is deforestation, smoke-filled homes, and a poverty trap that tightens every year. The frustrating part is that the sun is free and abundant in exactly these places. Solar thermal technology already exists to capture it, but the systems built for it were never designed with these homes in mind. A conventional solar thermal setup is heavy, fragile, and expensive. It uses copper or aluminum absorber plates fixed into rigid metal frames, shipped as bulky finished units, then bolted onto a pitched roof by a specialist. In the United Kingdom, the collectors themselves might cost a couple of £1,000s. But the labour, scaffolding, and plumbing can push the full job to between £3,000 and £7,000. More than half the bill is the install, not the hardware. Cutting that cost and complexity is exactly the problem SolarisKit set out to solve. The company was founded in 2019 by Dr. Faisal Ghani, a mechanical engineer with nearly 2 decades in solar thermal design, as a spin-out from Heriot-Watt University. The idea came from a journal paper he read on energy use in Rwanda, the one describing those families in Kigali. He realized the existing hardware was over-engineered for wealthy European rooftops and useless to the people who needed cheap heat the most. What he designed instead is shaped like a triangular prism. The outer shell is clear, high-transmission solar glazing, which traps incoming sunlight the way a greenhouse does. Inside that sealed enclosure runs a continuous coil of polymer pipe, and that coil is the absorber. Cold water is pumped through it, picks up the heat trapped inside the prism, and flows out warm at the other end. The prism shape does real work here. A flat panel loses efficiency when the sun sits low or off to the side, because it only catches sunlight straight on for part of the day. The sloped faces of the prism keep a consistent surface angled toward the sun as it moves across the sky, so it passively tracks the light without any motors. It also sits low and flat, which means less wind load and better stability on a roof. The polymer coil matters too. Metal absorbers scale up and corrode when fed hard or mineralized water, sometimes within 2 or 3 years. The polymer resists that, so the system can run on hard water, or even desalinated water, without softeners or special treatment. Then there is the part that makes the whole pitch work, which is how it ships and assembles. The collector packs flat into a compact box, cutting shipping volume and cost dramatically. It is light enough to move by cargo, bike, or motorcycle into places a truck could never reach. Once it arrives, one person assembles it in roughly 20 minutes with no tools and no training. If a part breaks, you replace that part rather than scrapping the unit. Under normal conditions, the collector heats water to around 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That is hot enough for showering, washing, and laundry, and it sits safely below the temperature that would damage household plumbing. To see where it stands, you have to weigh it against the systems already on the market, and on raw efficiency, the Prism does not win. Evacuated tube collectors with their double-walled vacuum glass capture heat at 70 to 85% efficiency, well ahead of the polymer Prism. Flat plate collectors sit a little lower, but still beat it on pure thermal capture. If efficiency on a spec sheet were the only thing that mattered, SolarisKit would lose. But that comparison ignores everything around the panel. Those high-efficiency systems carry the heavy frames, the fragile glass, the specialist install, and the long payback that comes with a four-figure bill. In the United Kingdom, a conventional solar thermal system can take 15 to 25 years to pay back against mains gas. A flat-packed collector that costs a fraction of that and goes up in an afternoon changes the math entirely. That is doubly true for a household with no specialist nearby and no budget for one. There is also a safety angle that rarely gets mentioned. Traditional collectors can run away in strong sun, with stagnation temperatures climbing past 356 degrees Fahrenheit when no water is flowing, which damages the hardware over time. The Prism is self-limiting by design and tops out far lower, so it does not cook itself in a heat wave. At the cheapest end of the market sits the basic electric immersion heater. It is cheap to buy but expensive to run, drawing grid power every time you want hot water. The Prism flips that around. It costs more upfront than a bare immersion element, but the sun it runs on is free. The pressure to switch is building from both the cost side and the rulebook. Energy prices have swung hard in recent years, dragging up the running cost of electric water heating across the board. In the United Kingdom, supplementing an immersion heater with solar thermal can save £250 to £500 a year, which is the kind of number that turns a nice-to-have into a sensible purchase. In the global south, the steady climb in charcoal prices is doing the same thing from the opposite direction. It squeezes low-income families harder and sharpens the demand for a clean alternative they can actually afford. The building codes are tightening alongside the prices. In the United Arab Emirates and the wider Gulf, developers now have to meet green building frameworks like Abu Dhabi's Estidama and the Dubai Green Building Regulations, which hand out credits for on-site renewable energy and locally made materials. A rooftop solar collector that cuts a building's energy footprint feeds straight into hitting those targets, which is a large part of why SolarisKit has leaned into that market. And the regions where this lands best, the hot, sunny, water-stressed ones, are exactly where conventional hardware struggles most, between the punishing heat and the hard water that wrecks metal absorbers. For all that promise, the technology has real ground to cover before it shows up on ordinary rooftops everywhere. The first obstacle surfaced in the very place that inspired it. Field trials in Rwanda found that roughly 70% of local homes lack the piped, pressurized water systems a standard collector expects, with no separate hot and cold plumbing, and often no roof strong enough to hold a tank. A collector alone solves nothing if there is no water system to plug it into. What would fix this is selling it as a complete, self-contained kit with a low-cost gravity-fed tank and flexible surface piping, so a household can set it up in a sunny yard and let gravity carry warm water to where it is needed. The history here is a warning, because solar cookers and heaters pushed into sub-Saharan Africa in the early 2000s were often abandoned when they ignored local conditions and broke down with no way to repair them. The second challenge is the weather itself. The Prism relies on a polymer coil inside a non-vacuum enclosure, which loses more heat than a sealed vacuum tube. In a cold, cloudy, northern winter, with weak, diffuse light and low temperatures, its output drops off, and it cannot serve as a home's only source of hot water. The honest framing is that it is a sunny weather supplement, not a year-round replacement. It preheats the water before it reaches a gas boiler or immersion heater, so the backup does far less work and the annual bill still falls. A programmable immersion heater fills the gap at night and through overcast spells. There is also the matter of who builds and ships it. The system was designed in the United Kingdom and originally leaned on imported polymers and glass, which makes it vulnerable to the shipping costs and supply shocks that have sunk other clean energy startups aimed at developing markets. The answer is to manufacture closer to where the kits are sold, through local assembly and licensing, which cuts shipping distance and import duties and keeps the price low where price is everything. The company has been moving steadily in exactly that direction, building local routes instead of shipping everything from Scotland. In the Gulf, SolarisKit now manufactures in the United Arab Emirates and has built a newer collector, the HelioFlow, tuned for hot climate flat roofs and sold as part of a complete system called Helio Pro. It has racked up real installations there. Those include hundreds of collectors across the villas at the Rixos Al Marid Hotel in Ras Al Khaimah, fitted after a storm damaged the older system the hotel had been using, plus a setup at the vast Sak port. In 2024, it won Ras Al Khaimah's Energy Innovation Competition, and in 2025, it joined an Abu Dhabi climate tech cohort. The reach now stretches well beyond that. The original flat pack kit sells on Amazon in the United Kingdom for under £200, aimed at heating above ground pools, glamping sites, and off-grid setups. The technology has been deployed across Africa, North America, and Asia, with a training centre in East Africa to build local installer skills, and a partnership with Jacuzzi UK to trial a version for heating hot tubs. The long-term ambition, Ghani has talked about, runs to hundreds of millions of collectors worldwide. If you are watching this in a cold, cloudy country and wondering whether it is for you, the honest answer is that it works best as a warm season helper. The versions reaching sun-soaked markets are the ones doing the heaviest lifting. The platform is still maturing, and it will keep getting cheaper and better suited to more climates as it scales. What SolarisKit really changes is who gets to own this technology at all. For decades, solar hot water meant heavy glass, a specialist crew, and a bill that ruled out the households with the most sun and the least money. Flattening it into a toolless kit that travels by bike turns that on its head. It only makes hot water, not electricity. It tops out around 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and it needs a backup heater for the dark and the cold. But against rising energy costs, tightening building rules, and a clear need in exactly the places the sun shines hardest, the case for it keeps getting stronger. If you want to keep up with the tech reshaping how we power and heat our homes, subscribe and follow along, because there is plenty more worth watching coming down the line.